You know, I need to be totally honest with you because in the last few months, the last couple of years, or maybe I'll say this, the last year, looking over at some of the videos on this channel, I've noticed that I could have done things better. I could have portrayed something a bit better that you need to know about me, that you need to know about my family for the context of moving to Africa, for the context of being successful in Africa without bouncing back and forth, so that it makes a little bit more sense, because there is a importance in storytelling and in the context behind what you do. The context is something in the Bible. It's actually a chapter, an entire chapter, just one chapter technically, to be quite honest with you. And I'm going to tell you that chapter, okay? But here's what I did before coming to Africa that's different than what anybody's going to tell you, because I've looked around and there's just not that many people, especially online, who profess this out loud. Or maybe they did not do it, so that's why they can't profess it. But here's what I would do. Maybe it was about 2020, spring, early summer. I left Ohio in late summer. And I grew up in a Jewish community, wonderful community, beautiful place. I look back on it with nostalgia, actually. And so we had a Panera down the street from my house growing up. And so I would go back and visit my mom, because obviously we were about to leave America forever. We knew that at that point. How did we know? Because we are spiritual people. That's how we knew when we made the decision. Boom, so it happened. And so I would walk to Panera every single morning at about 5:55 a.m. because I know they're gonna open at like 6 or 6:30. And so they're gonna be open by the time I get there. So I'd walk to Panera and I'd take my time. I'd strategically walk slower for a particular reason, because I was reciting something. I was reciting Genesis 12. Now, if you're unaware of what Genesis 12 is one of my favorite chapters in the Bible, and it's basically the Most High Yah coming unto Abraham, telling him through a dream, you're going to go to a country in a land that I'm going to show you, and you have to do it because the promise that's guaranteed to your children's children that great nations will come out of you is going to be there. So you have to get out of Terah's house, his father. You have to get out of that house. It's an idol-worshiping house, because Abraham came from a society that worshipped idols. Now, there's lots of societies that worship idols, but in the society Abraham came from, they would worship idols, and it was also close in proximity. You know Lot. If you know Lot, he came from Sodom and Gomorrah, in proximity to a place like Sodom and Gomorrah, whose main sins in the earth were being LGBT and all the plus and all the minuses and all the things, right? So America has a parallel to that, but America also parallels to Egypt, ancient Egypt, and I guess you could say Egypt today, because some of those ancient things are still there. It parallels to that society. And with all of the things that we see happening in the world, especially with President Trump and Netanyahu, by the way, I didn't say Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. This is filmed on the Sabbath. Hello. And I have my cover on because it is cold here in Mauritius. Like it's winter. The morning time is winter, and then by 11 it's going to be warm. But you know, that's just how we do it in Mauritius. But let me get back to you, okay? Let me come back because I'm going to warm up my coffee real quick. Abraham proceeds to listen to his father through a dream. Remember, this is not a man coming into his house, into his territory. It's not a human coming to him saying, you need to do this. It's not some preacher he met, some pastor, although he did meet Melchizedek throughout his story. But the person, the entity, the being that gave him this instruction was Yah through a dream. So he left. And I've always loved that story, but I loved it even more once I realized that I was called. We were called. My entire family was called, and it sounds crazy. You may hear this and be like, oh, that's so spiritual. That's so, oh, I don't like that. You don't have to like it. It's just reality. It's just fact. The truth doesn't need you to like it, doesn't need you to understand it, just doesn't really need any of that, especially in these times that we are in with Netanyahu and Trump, which I'm going to touch on just a little bit, which is why I'm making this video, because we are coming to a time where it's very, very important as believers of Yah, in Yahusha's blood, in Yahusha's name, all of that, in the way, the truth, and the life. We are coming to a time where it's very important that we don't just cop out. It's very important that we testify. It's very important that we profess and tell why we are the way we are, why we are blessed in the way that we are blessed, why we continue to live in Mauritius, Africa, to live in Africa, period, because you are coming to a time where the beast is going to be in full function in the world. Mainly his capitalist society is going to be Western society. It's specifically going to be America. It just is. I know you may not want to hear that if you're someone that's not prophetic, if you don't study the Bible, if you don't understand prophecy, or if you happen to be someone that studies, but somehow you're just on a different trail. You may not want to hear that. It's reality. It's going to come to pass. Just like COVID-19, when the world shut down. When me and my family left America to come to Tanzania during that time, we were so grateful. We knew we had made the right decision. Then when AI came out, I was like, wow, America's going to be different because we have foresight and understanding. So we can put 1 and 2 together. And although it may not be right here in the physical right now, it's going to be in the physical in a couple of years. Okay, it's very simple. And, even East Africans, I met a Kenyan lady, and she was like, for us, there's 5 types of ways to be wealthy: marriage, children, foresight, wealth, and peace. And I was like, that's so interesting, because foresight being accounted as a way to exude wealth is actually super true, because if you can understand what's coming, or if you've been shown what's coming, then you're going to be able to maneuver yourself out the way. And that is why Yah spoke to Abraham and said, get out your country, go to a land that I'm going to show you. He didn't say, here's the place, here's the time, this is what you're going to be doing. So Abraham had very little to go on physically other than his faith, which is why he is called the father of many nations, the father of the Abrahamic religions. This is why everybody knows Abraham on earth. I've traveled all throughout the earth. If you talk about Abraham, everybody knows him. Like, let's just pause on that for a minute. I've traveled throughout basically a lot of parts of the earth. I have not been to Asia. But if you are in the Americas, Europe, or Africa, Mediterranean, everybody knows who Abraham is, period. It just is what it is. Why is that? It's because Abraham and the Bible are true, and it's because his faith allowed Yah to be known in such a way so that people would always know, oh, Abraham was the one that kind of went out there on a whim, but had this extreme level of faith and believed the promise. Abraham believed the promise so much that he didn't even see the fulfillment of it. I think it's such a blessing, all praises to Yah, that we believe the promise as a family and saw some of the fulfillment of it through our lineage, because we have had 3 children while abroad in Africa. I've had 2 home births in Tanzania, 1 hospital birth in Mauritius. And so this is why it's so important to come back and tell you and testify and update you on the testimony and the journey, because Yah is doing the same thing in the earth again. There is no new thing under the sun, so much so that we're also going to have to go back and look at the book of Noah. We met some expats out here, clients, okay? And they were talking about, hey, there was this specific video where you were talking about the days of Noah, and people get the days of Noah wrong. And so for my Sabbath study, I'm going to go through, and what I'm actually going to do is, because I've been through Noah so much, I'm going to jot down everything that I can find specifically about Noah. For example, obviously, Noah has children. Noah's children have wives. So it was Noah and his children and their wives, ensuring that they could procreate and continue a lineage after the flood came on the earth. But there's also the fact that Sodom and Gomorrah was on the earth. There's also a fact that Yah had a large amount of wrath in those days, so much so that he had to cleanse the entire earth and chose to protect this one little family. See, this isn't rare for Yah. If you read the Bible, a lot of people think this is like a rare thing, like Christians who maybe don't read the Bible or kind of like passive, like, yeah, say amen and God and all this, but I don't actually study. It's not a rare thing for Yah to just choose and select a family, a portion of a family, a remnant of a nation, to just say, hey, I'm going to separate you, you're going to go over here. It's not a rare thing for a testimony from someone to be, hey, Yah told me to travel abroad and he said don't go back. That's not rare, because we have Abraham that did it. We have Jeremiah that was warning the Israelites, telling them judgment is going to come. You're about to go in captivity. I'm going to go with you, but they're going to separate me away from you because I've been righteous and I've actually listened to Yah, and I've professed to you that the end is coming. For that time frame, not literally the end of the world, but the end of you being in Jerusalem at that time is coming. Read Jeremiah 4. this isn't a rare, like, this isn't like some phenomenal thing. Then we have Lot. We just touched on Noah, Abraham, Jeremiah, Lot. Lot is also told by the messengers, the angels, you want to leave this city like now. Like, I know you like it, your wife likes it, that's cool, but we're about to send fire on the city and we don't want to harm you, because also in Genesis, Yah says, as Abraham, I believe it was Abraham praying, and it wasn't Lot, you can correct me though, praying and saying, Father, would you save the city if there were 10 righteous? He said, yeah. Would you save it if there were 5 righteous? He says, yes, of course. He says, would you save it if there's 1 that's righteous? And he says, yes. But here's the thing, he could not find any righteous people. The only righteous ones were Abraham and Lot. And so Yah, being the ultimate judge who knows the hearts of humans, he's able to say, actually, I found that none of those folks are righteous, not one. And so I chose to tell you that it's time for you to exit so that you are not a part of the judgment. So we have this idea in Revelations in the modern mind where somehow the judgment is going to be on the earth, but Yah will judge all of humanity and save no one. That's just not reality here. From a Hebrew standpoint, action has always been accompanied with faith. From the Christian standpoint, that may not make sense. But to the Hebrew standpoint, it was always, I have to work out my faith with fear and trembling. I have to be obedient to what Yah told me and actually execute it, meaning actually do it. The Christian perspective, as it is today, wasn't always like this. It's a very Grecian perspective. It's a very much perspective that's like, just like cloud 9 in the stars. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to listen. You don't have to study. You don't have to understand prophecy. You definitely don't have to move if you don't want to, because America's the greatest and has Disneyland. That's not the way that things are about to go on this earth. We are coming into a time with AI where you will be in a super hyper surveillance society system that you do not want to be in. Now, I understand you may not be called or chosen, but I'm speaking to the remnant here that are called, chosen. Just be obedient. Just get up and go. Seriously. Just do it. Because I always look at these AI data centers. They're sending warnings about them for Ohio and Indiana. I'm looking at the yellow water that folks have out there in the Midwest, because the Midwest is going to go through it pretty badly, because I guess we have a lot of land. I'm not sure why they chose the Midwest for that purpose, but unfortunately they did, which is probably another reason Yah got us out. So when I learned that the biggest data center on earth is going to be in Ohio, I was like, oh, Father, you're great. Because I'm an Ohio girl. I used to live in Ohio. My whole family's from Ohio, okay? And so you just got to be discerning. And for the people that are like, well, what about your family? Well, let me tell you, my father passed away. And before he passed away, I said, Dad, I want to move to Africa, because I knew I wanted to move to Africa at 18. Why? Because I was called, period. That's it. And so he said, go ahead. Just make sure you have your money together. You can move anywhere you want in the earth. Got my father's blessing. Now, my mother, she's alive, and my mother has been to Tanzania when we lived in Tanzania. She's actually getting ready to move to Mauritius, like permanently, because Mauritius is the only African country that'll issue you a 10-year retirement residence permit. How do I know? Because we've been telling people about it. So on the website, this isn't like secret information. It's just, if you just research. And if you just ask Yah, where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? How do you want me to maneuver? He's going to unearth and show you things that maybe no man has seen before, or maybe just people in your circle have not seen before. And so there's that. But that's why I wanted to come and testify. I wanted to be really clear about the testimony and giving an update from 2020 to 2026. In 2022, 2023, we'd always do these updates prophetically, testimony-wise, but I wanted to come on and do it now, because as you increase, and you know, if it's wealth, if it's family, busyness, you can get distracted with the things of the world. But I wanted to ensure that I draw back a little bit and remember to testify and to update that testimony, because there are so many new people here. And so the profession of my faith is literally, yes, Yahusha is king. The blood of Yahusha saves us from the grave, the law of sin and death, but it's also the blood of Yahusha has given us a level of wisdom to be able to act functionally the way that Abraham did, the way that Lot did, the way that Jeremiah did, the way that Noah did, the way that all the prophets did, because they had to have a high level of faith. It's very difficult to go to your cousins and your friends and to tell them, Yah's about to judge you. Yah's about to come. Yah's about to come. He's not happy. It's like going out today and telling people this AI stuff that's happening in America, because it's not all over the world. Sorry to tell you, maybe not sorry, but it's just not, okay? But to tell people, this is going to literally crucify America in such a way that you don't want to even be anywhere near it, because it's already going to be difficult enough as an American just to deal with the systems, but being right in the belly of the beast like that, because it truly is. I mean, we're seeing it. They're replacing humanity with AI. They're replacing humanity with cyborgs. Elon Musk has just been crowned a trillionaire. I don't know. If you don't see the signs, I can't make you see the signs, quite honestly, but I can testify and tell you why our faith is in this way. And I am commanded. This isn't like a nice to do in the scriptures. When Yahusha was on earth, he's like, it'd be nice to talk about what I do for you. It'd be kind of nice. No, it's a commandment. Profess my name. Profess what I've done for you on the earth. Profess your faith in me. Tell them why you have faith in me. Contend for the faith, meaning fight for your faith. Fight for the story, the testimony that Yahusha has given you. The Lion of Judah. I look back on my high school. This just triggered my memory, and our mascot was a lion, so that just made me smile. The Lion of Judah, okay? Because you're going to have faith that you've never had before. And honestly, it isn't difficult. A lot of people tell you it's so difficult to move. It's just really not. That you have to come to a point where it's not difficult. If you are seeing Genesis 12, if you're seeing the days of Noah happening, it can't be that difficult. It just can't. It should be easier to follow Yah, because you know that he's about to remove you out of destruction. So I can't tell you that it was so difficult, because then I would be lying to you. That just wasn't my experience. Also normalizing as somebody who is called, chosen, selected, and plans to endure. Normalize not being like the other folks that maybe haven't been able to endure, that maybe weren't called and chosen. Normalize, hey, that's not my experience. That may be your experience. Okay, that's fine. But my experience was this, because that's what a testimony is. Your experience. And so when you don't profess your experience truthfully, then guess who you got to answer to? You got to answer to Yahusha, the King, the Lion of Judah, the one who's coming back with fierce fire in his eyes, like all the things. But I had to say this, because what you're about to see, and I can't tell you exactly what it's going to look like, but I'm going to tell you this Trump Netanyahu thing is a sign. We thought the beginning of 2026 was bad. I'm going to have to come back here and do like some historical teachings and analysis, just because if I get into it today, I'm just going to have to wait. It would be a whole nother new video about the history of both America and Israel and all of those things. So we're going to save that for another day. Leave a comment down below if you'd like to hear that, or if you'd like to contribute to that conversation. And yeah, shalom, shalom, Shabbat, shalom, hallelujah. All praises to the Most High in Yahusha's name and the blood of Yahusha. I'm so glad that we made the decision 6 years ago to leave. I'm so glad that we are very careful with who and what we put around us, because your testimony can be tainted. Yes, your testimony can be tainted with what? If you look at the book of Exodus, the children of Israel, who again, Yah could have said, just stay in Egypt for it, but he didn't say stay. He told the children of Israel to leave, move on out of Egypt. And for them, it was hard and uncomfortable. Not for all of them, but for most of them. Moses, Caleb, Joshua. I just don't remember seeing Moses, Caleb, Joshua, Miriam, any of the four of them walking in the wilderness, knowing they're going into the promise, saying how hard it is, how difficult it is, how, oh my gosh, this, oh my gosh, that. Like, there's a level of just respect that should be had for the process of following Yah on faith. Because if you complain on that faith journey, unfortunately, you open the spirit realm up to attacks. And you can't blame anybody but you, because you opened the door to that because you complain. But maybe you didn't study the Bible well enough or whatever, but you want to do that. You really want to do that, because this world is getting highly spiritual. You want to understand spiritual warfare. You want to understand why Yah says be set apart. You can be physically and spiritually set apart, period. I live on an island. That's as set apart physically as you can get. But then also spiritually, I'm set apart. I'm very careful with who I'm in contact with, what I listen to. As somebody that is prophetic and can understand what's happening in the world, I have to be very careful with what I put around me. Not out of fear, but out of reverence for Yah. because I don't see things in the way that the world sees them. I see things mainly through a spiritual lens first, even in business. I always look at things through a spiritual lens and ask, Father, what would you have me to do here? What would you have me to do with this client? Should I not work with this anymore? Should I do this? Would you have me to transition? Would you have me to get rid of this person? Would you have me to hire this person? Would you have me to do an internship for a group of people? I'm about to be doing a scholarship soon. More to that to come later. But Shabbat Shalom, profess your testimony. Ours is that Genesis 12, we were called, we were chosen, we were selected. And you could be chosen too. But we heeded the call. We were obedient along the way for these 6 years. And we professed to you who the author of our faith was. We professed to you what we believed. We professed to you what was happening, what the changes were. We professed to you how Yahuah has grown our family, literally nearly doubled the children we have, or about doubled, having 3 children to now having 6 children. He says in Psalms 127, children are an inheritance of Yahuah. The fruit of the womb, his reward. But, only a few believe that now in these days. These last days, you could tell somebody that and they can't even get through that. And so if you can't even get through to understand Psalms 127.5, verse 5, it's going to be a hard time understanding what's to come before 2030. Shabbat Shalom, 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 be blessed. Read Genesis 12, read Daniel, the book of Daniel in its entirety. Read Revelation 6. I think I stopped at maybe 8 or 9, because that's the season we're in. You can like it, you can dislike it. For me personally, I don't care. I'd rather offend humans than offend Yah, period. Shalom, shalom.